All right, what's up, everybody? Hi, how are you? Let me put a pause to this. You know me, Chris Valenti, also known as Valenti Videos. This is my brother, Matt. Say hi.
Hey, what's up, guys?
We got some coffee. I got hot. He's got iced. We got a plan here. We're going to be talking about a little bit of the CIA, Cold War, the fucking military-industrial complex, all the shit that holds our lives together. So you excited?
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is what the inception was of your channel. You know, just going around during COVID, we would talk about all these things, and you'd go up to me, wake up in the middle of the, at 1 p.m. and be like, Matt, did anybody tell you about? Blah, blah, blah,
Oh
blah?
yeah, no, COVID was like, I graduated in 2020, right? So I was studying history and political science right when the fucking world ended. So then I spent a lot of time alone in my fucking what are you doing? A lot of time alone learning about all sort of shit. Popping is in a chino. But anyway, let's pull up the what are we dealing with here? What's the first thing that we're diving into? Oh, some secret operations of the Cold War. Have you heard of Operation Northwoods?
I mean, listen, like, I've heard of it, but I don't know anything compared to. I don't look into this. Like, I'm doing my day-to-day job, and I don't look into this type of stuff unless I'm watching your videos or I see like a History Channel documentary or a new Netflix documentary, whatever it might be.
Well, the thing, obviously, you've heard of the Cuban Missile Crisis, right?
Give me what
Luigi.
I know but you don't understand about.
Well, all right. So during the Cold War, right, we had placed a lot of our nuclear missiles in Turkey, right, which is right next to the Soviet Union, capable of striking Moscow. And the Soviets, they didn't have nearly as many like long-range capable missiles as we did, like ICBMs. So they ended up making a deal with Fidel Castro, right? He was the leader of Cuba, who was this rising socialist, because at the time, socialists and communists, they were best friends, right? And they made a deal with Castro to put some nuclear weapons in Cuba so that they were close enough to hit the United States, right? Cuba's essentially our back fucking yard, right? And that starts this whole crisis where Americans start to realize, like, oh shit, we can actually be striked down. But Operation Northwoods, if we pull this up here, we've got an actual memorandum. Operation Northwoods was a secret operation put together by the CIA that they didn't end up following through with, but it was a secret operation to commit acts of terror on our own civilians, mass shootings, bombing campaigns, right? But disguised as Cuban rebels, so that we would start a fucking war with Cuba. And we didn't end up following through with it, because when it got to JFK's table, he was like, you want to fucking commit acts of terrorism on our own people and pretend that it's Cubans? This is fucking insane, right? And that ties into the Bay of Pigs. You've heard of the Bay of Pigs, right?
Yeah, I mean, everybody.
What's your understanding of the Bay of Pigs?
My understanding of the Bay of Pigs is this was a plan that JFK inherited.
Yes.
And we had troops essentially going there, but JFK pulled out at the last minute, and people got killed, and people were mad at him. But also, he was trying to prevent a war that the CIA wanted him to put together. But like, I don't understand. I don't understand how that would have or wouldn't have prevented the war. I knew that the missiles were there.
I'll tell you this. Hold on. Play this in the background so we can get a look at Castro himself. But the Bay of Pigs wasn't just an area, right, of Cuba that we were going to invade in. But the whole thing about it was like you said, it was inherited by JFK. It was put together by the president before him. But what it involved was a whole bunch of Cuban rebels that we had brought over into Miami, right? And we used the CIA to fucking train these Cuban rebels, to arm them, to teach them how to fight like Americans, right? And they were going to go back to Cuba alongside the U.S. Marines and a whole bunch of aircraft carriers, right? And overthrow Fidel Castro, assassinate him, take over the government. It was going to be a whole fucking coup d'etat, right? And the problem is there were Soviet forces on the island. Luigi! But the CIA had bad intel. They said that there were only 4,000 Soviet troops on the island when there was actually 40,000, right? So if we had invaded, it would have been the first time sure, there were small skirmishes between Americans and Soviets all over the fucking place, but thousands and thousands of U.S. Marines versus thousands of Soviet fucking standard army men, or even fucking, maybe there were Spetsnaz, there were probably Spetsnaz over there, but it would have been 10,000 against 40,000. It would have been fucking nuts. So when JFK finally hears about this, he's like, wait. You already have the Cuban rebels there. I'm talking last minute. The Cuban rebels are already on the beach waiting for the U.S. Marines in the water to come and help them out. And JFK calls it off last second. He goes, no, fuck that. Fuck that. We're not doing this. And there's two schools of thought. There's people who say he failed the Bay of Pigs. We could have invaded Cuba. And there's people who say, no, he prevented World War III. Because the Soviets' only ICBMs that could have hit the U.S. were in Cuba. So if we had gone there, they would have just fucking launched them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I mean, like my whole question and understanding is like if not this, then the next one, and the next one, and the next one. You know, the Soviets were everywhere. That parking weapons. I mean, I know that they wanted as close as they could get to the United States was Cuba, but they were also building up communism in the South America. And
well, no, that's not necessarily true. The South American countries, a lot of them were turning to socialism simply because, like, those policies made sense for those people because they were already being taken advantage of by the higher class. You know what I'm saying? And that fear that we had of, like, oh my God, the Soviets must be infiltrating South America and turning them red. That's what led to a lot of the CIA involvement down there.
When I feel like, because I only took in high school, I took American history. AP American History, and I took I took like 2 courses in college, but that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
And I felt like, you know, they essentially said this was a war with Russia. They parked weapons here.
But we parked our weapons there first. That was the problem.
And I mean, it ties into, you know, when you look at Cuba today, it feels like it's still stuck in the 50s, you know, and I know that the Obama administration was trying to lift the embargo on trade there, but then it was reinstated, and I never really followed how much, you know, it affected Cuba and the lives of the Cuban people.
Well, we really punished the fucking Cubans for, you know, allowing the Soviets to put their weapons there. That's why the people who fled Cuba weren't like the average people. They were the wealthy. They were the super rich. Because when Castro took over, it was a rise of socialism and communism in Cuba, right? That's why if you ask like a fucking Cuban in Miami what we should do with Cuba, they'll give you some unhinged answer like nuke it. You know what I'm saying? Because the people that escaped Cuba, they had life good there before they escaped. It's not like the ones who had life bad were the ones rising up, you know, the workers. What are you fucking doing? I got the cat picking on the chair. I got the dog trying to get kissy bobissies. You know how it is, everybody. But also, oh yeah, no, that brings us to RFK's secret meeting. I mean, and guys, we're not talking about RFK Jr., the guy running for president right now. Obviously, RFK's a fucking Kennedy. You know, the Kennedys are extremely famous, but JFK, when he was president, he made RFK his what was he, Secretary of Defense? I think he was the SecDef.
I don't know. Let's find out. What position did RFK, Robert F. Kennedy, have in the White House? Because I know he. I'm not
Attorney General.
Attorney General. So I know he was the Attorney General, but he was also in Congress for a number of years as well. 64th, and then as a U.S. Senator, but he was assassinated when he was running for president against Jimmy Carter.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Going back to what we're talking about with the Cuban Missile Crisis, right? So we put our missiles in Turkey first. Soviets put their missiles in Cuba. Then we have the fucking how many days was it? The 7 days, the Cuban Missile Crisis, where like our fucking nuclear our warships are like face to face. Everybody, it's like 7 days of absolute mayhem, right? So JFK decides he's got to stay in the United States in case all war breaks out, global thermonuclear war. So he sends his brother, RFK, all the way over to fucking I think it was actually somewhere in the Soviet Union, some meeting. It might have even been in Moscow. But RFK has a president with Nikita Khrushchev, the leader of the Soviet Union, and makes a secret quid pro quo with him. RFK says, he goes, if we pull our missiles out of Turkey, will you stand down in Cuba and pull your missiles out? And Khrushchev says, absolutely. That's the only reason our missiles are there, is because your missiles are here. And RFK says, we will do that, but only if you understand we will never, ever publicly acknowledge that we engaged in a quid pro quo with you. Right? So a lot of Americans at the time, when the Cuban Missile Crisis suddenly ended, there was mass confusion. There was no explanation for why this ended. When he was like, finally it's over, the Soviets are pulling their missiles out. The explanation that was given was that and this is true, is that during those 7 days we scrambled hundreds of B-52 fighters with nuclear weapons headed over to Europe, hundreds of them. All of our submarines with nuclear weapons emerged, getting ready to launch. We showed the might of God to the Soviets, and they only had 2 missiles. Granted, 2 nuclear missiles can fucking destroy a goddamn nation, but we showed them, we said, listen, if you do this, we'll end the fucking world. And it was this sudden realization that you can see the Soviet nuclear weapon program skyrocketed after the Cuban Missile Crisis, because they suddenly realized, oh my god, we're so fucking outclassed. So that's when the space race begins, you know, or it's a race of technology, you know, German scientists in the U.S. competing against German scientists in the Soviet fucking Union.
And like, you know, I would say we never really left that era.
No, we didn't.
Even though, you know, people would say, oh, the end of the Cold War.
The Cold War never ended. The Soviet Union did.
Right. I mean, it all ties into, like, how we never left the concept or mentality of the space race, if you will, or the arms race, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, you gotta be top dog. Always.
Not space race, because space race was literally getting into space, but like the nukes race, the arms race,
yeah.
And you know, I know that the Russians fell. They fell back, whereas we continued to advance. That's why we have the things that we have, and you can even see it today in the Ukraine war, with how old some of the equipment is that they're going and using, and it's showing that they haven't been able to keep up with our level of advancement.
Excuse me.
Where we're constantly innovating our stockpiles, making and offloading our stockpiles as well for money or for.
Well, that's the thing. You've heard the saying, you got to use
selling.
it. You've ever heard the phrase, you got to use it or lose it?
Yeah.
That doesn't refer to those weapons being taken away from you. It refers to the funding that you're getting, right? So these military industrial complexes, these military weapon manufacturers, right? They have a budget that they're getting. And if they have a stockpile of weapons sitting in a warehouse getting cobwebs, you know what I mean? The next fucking year, their budget's going to be cut. So they have a fiscal responsibility to make sure that they are either using the weapons in our own wars, or at least selling the weapons to somebody who's gonna fucking use it. You know what I mean? This is why Eisenhower warned us about the military-industrial complex, because there'll never be a business that is as successful as making bombs. You know, like everybody historically needs a weapon. You know what I mean? If you go back far enough to the fucking caves, you got Ooga Booga with a rock versus Ooga Booga without a rock, and Ooga Booga with a rock fucking won. You know what I'm saying? This is the tale as old as time.
Right.
What are we looking at here? How America became a superpower?
Yeah, this is like, and Vox Media does a great analysis of everything. I highly recommend everybody watch their docuseries. But like things that they highlight is really, you know, the territory.
Go back here. What is this, dude?
Yeah, let me pause this.
National defense spending. Oh yeah.
I mean, you can find the national defense spending. You know, end of World War I, they stopped, but clearly the military-industrial complex had essentially they had gotten addicted to just creating weapons and how it impacted society. We were on rations, but
well, that's another thing about World War II that a lot of people don't understand.
I'll pause this.
No, come right back. Come right back. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, because it's not going to pick up. Like I don't know who Shah Pahlavi is of the CIA.
So go back to the Mujahideen there. The CIA. Okay, let's stop. Mossadegh. That was I think the leader of Turkey. I could be 100% wrong. Stop there. The Mujahideen. This is an example of something that not a lot of people understand unless you were old enough to, like, you know. Granted, we aren't even fucking old enough, but your parents who lived through like the 80s, right? We were allies with this armed. I guess nowadays you'd probably call them a terrorist organization, but we were allies with this armed militia called the Mujahideen, and one of their fucking highest-ranking members was a guy named Osama bin Laden. But the CIA, you gotta remember, the Soviets went to war with Afghanistan way before we did, okay? The Soviet-Afghan war, because Afghanistan, as you can see on the screen, it has the largest border.
Hold on, I'll bring it back.
Pull this up. You see the blue line there, guys? Afghanistan has the largest border with the former Soviet Union out of any fucking country in the Middle East, right? So when the Soviets decided to invade Afghanistan, there was a famous memo between, we could probably try to pull this up. Type in, let them have their own Vietnam memo. There was a famous memo between the U.S. Attorney General when they found out about this. McNamara, when they were finding out that the Soviets were going to invade Afghanistan, and we just said, let them have their own Vietnam, because we knew we got
This is in Vietnam. This is not about this. What is a famous quote from Vietnam?
No. Type in "let them have their own Vietnam, Soviet-Afghan war." But yeah, no, it was we knew they would never fucking win that war, so we started sending the CIA to train these guys called the Mujahideen, and then after the fucking war ended, the Mujahideen turned their own guns against us. I think it was type in Robert McNamara. McNamara, let them have their own Vietnam.
I don't know. It doesn't really matter.
I'll correct it in the After Effects. But one of these fucking guys said that famous quote when they found out the Soviets were going to invade Afghanistan. So we ended up arming up the Mujahideen, sending the CIA to train them. Bin Laden was one of them. And then as time went on and the Soviet-Afghan war ended and we just pulled all fucking help to these people, they suddenly realized that they had been used, right? They turned against us. And that's how you see the beginning of things like the fucking Taliban and Al-Qaeda. These were, we armed and trained these people right before the fucking Arab Spring. If you look at pictures of like Iran or Lebanon in the 1970s and 80s, like, they weren't all forced to wear burqas and what are they called? I forgot the other fucking one where you can only see their eyes. Is that a burqa?
I don't know. I don't know
the name of it.
The names. I don't think that we're getting off topic here. I feel like the only reason society is the way it is because we were shaped from the Cold War. And when you think about our technological advancement and the reverse engineering, or not reverse engineering, but the advancement of everything that we have, from cars to phones, GPS, things like that, are all advanced out of these conflicts. And
100%.
It's interesting because we have these mobile devices.
They're reverse engineered from the alien technology. Go on.
But when I watched the Fallout show, right, and you saw how they had like a different path of technological advancement, but it was 100% without the war and the weapons. I thought that was such like an interesting tie to where we could have gone, and all the roadways that we took versus them. I don't know. I felt like it was a really, really good metaphor for like you have to want to de-escalate, because if you continue to escalate, you're gonna end up in the mountains.
That's why a lot of people, some people fucking say things like de-escalate through escalation, and that's like fucking insane. But what I will say is this: is like the Cold War, and it did shape. Like, we're still reeling through the consequences of the Red Scare. You know what I mean?
Right.
A lot of Americans nowadays will be like, "Oh, the fucking commies," and it's like, well, could you tell me what a communist is? They don't know what a communist is. They know that Stalin was a communist. They know that Mao Zedong was a communist, and they know that those guys killed fucking tens of millions of people. So at first glance, no shit, it looks horrible. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, where in the fucking Communist Manifesto does it say you got to starve 40 million Ukrainians in order to be a good socialist? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And at the same time, how many people starve to death in America each year? I don't know, probably like 500,000 or some shit. But we don't say that capitalism starves 500,000 people to death each year. We don't blame the organization of the economy on it,
Right.
But when it comes to Fallout, like you're saying, man, I mean, if we had never forced the Soviet Union to collapse through bankruptcy, this is the type of shit we would have been fucking living in. What is this? Oh, the intro cinematic?
Oh yeah, no, it's just it's funny because my wife has just been playing all the Fallout games after the show came out, and
recently married guy over here.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, brother! Hell yeah!
But I don't know. Like I whenever I play these games, I always think about it's like the what if of like what could have happened if the Cold War went hot.
I mean, listen, if the Cold War went hot, there just would have been a very small portion of humanity that survived, and we would have been reset back to like the fucking Stone Age. And that goes into an ancient apocalypse theory. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
It's essentially just that, like, humanity, like, look at, like, the nukes, right? Humanity, essentially, the theory, it's just a theory, has gone through many apocalyptic events where only a small portion of us remains, and then we restart. It's like a cyclical event. And the reason being, you've definitely heard of Göbekli Tepe, right? They talk about it on Joe Rogan all the time. Göbekli Tepe, for you guys who don't understand this, this is not a conspiracy theory at all. Archaeologists across the board agree. It is a monolithic site that is 14,000 years old, meaning it was created by somebody. The problem is that civilized humanity is not 14,000 years old. So it begs the question, who built this, right? And there's only two schools of thought. There's one, fucking aliens, or two, we built it and we were more advanced than we thought. You know what I'm saying? So
isn't that the argument that people have about, like, you know, Mars?
What do you mean? That Mars was blown to shit because it looks like it was a nuclear fucking... Well, that's just based on looks, but, like, we have concrete evidence that 14,000 years ago this thing was created, and yet we don't know. Pull up Göbekli Tepe just for a second. We're going to go down the Joe Rogan rabbit hole just for a second.
It's not Joe Rogan. He doesn't own it.
I know.
How do I spell it?
Göbleki. There it is.
Göbekli Tepe. Göbekli Tepe.
Göbekli Tepe. Pull up one of the pictures of the site right there. Pull up that one. So this site is the oldest monolithic structure known to man. It's a 14,000...
Hold on. Let me get the actual... Here we go.
Well, that's just like a artist reconstruction of it.
That's what you had me pull up.
Oh, okay, whatever. But guys, it's a 14,000-year-old structure, and
I'm not playing their ad.
According to modern historians and archaeologists, humanity wasn't that old. So it begs the question of who built it. And what I was saying about the Cold War is that, let's say we fucking nuked everyone to smithereens, and all that was left was 10,000 human beings. What are the odds that those 10,000 know how to build a smartphone? Fucking zilch, nada, and none. So what it means is that we would still be alive, but we would be reset back to the fucking Stone Age, and then maybe in 10,000 years we'd remember how to do it. And people think that's why we don't know how we built the pyramids. They're like, oh, the guys who built it all fucking died.
Okay, so this is a model.
This is the real one.
This is his model. This guy made a model, and
that's the real one.
Showing out when they were digging out the archaeological artifacts and sites.
But guys, these things look like they were cut by a fucking laser. That's how well carved they are.
I don't know about that. But
I know.
But the point is
something built this.
Yeah, but you were...
What?
You were talking about, essentially, we don't have 14,000-year-old
according to
sophisticated civilization, but, we have evidence...
So what this means is there's only two answers. Someone else built this, which would mean, fucking aliens or gods or whatever.
No.
Well, exactly, and the only other logical explanation is that we had at least a civilization that was more advanced than we think. And maybe they were wiped out by some flood or earthquake or, super volcanoes erupted back then. You know what I mean? The fucking, the super volcano in Italy, when it erupted, the volcanic ash blocked out the sun.
I don't know how we ventured.
That's the fun of it.
To this topic, but, I think, I feel like every time I try to, every time I want to understand where we are today, I have to go back and, it's the concept of the song "We Didn't Start the Fire."
Oh, I love that song.
Right? It's just, you need to be able to follow suit of the only reason we are here is because of the thousands of years of how we had to get here.
What is happening right now will dictate 20 years from now. You know what I'm saying? You are literally, oh my God, Kamala fucking Harris said this, with that line where she was like, what do you think, you fell out of a coconut tree? She goes, you exist in the context of everything that happened before you. That's 100% true. My favorite example is the Holy Roman Empire, right? And chat, you're going to love this. But Matt, do you think your life was that affected by the Holy Roman Empire? Probably not. But do you think your life was affected by World War I?
I mean, I could argue both.
Well, my point is this. The Habsburgs, who were the last remaining members of the Holy Roman Empire, fought in World War I.
How much territory did they... Hold on.
The Holy Roman Empire was dog shit. It wasn't the same as the Roman Empire.
No.
But wait, let me just finish this thought.
I just want to see how much... I want to see how much territory they actually had.
Fuck all. The Roman Empire was way bigger.
This is what it says. The Holy Roman Empire did
Matt,
not just have nothing.
Brother, the Holy
Look,
Roman Empire and the Roman Empire are two different things. They're two different
I
things.
looked up the Holy Roman Empire.
I know.
And you're saying it was nothing, but look how much territory they actually
I know,
had.
but that's fuck all compared to the Roman Empire.
Okay, so now let me look up
Roman Empire at its peak. Make sure you do it at its peak.
how much territory.
We're about to blow his mind, chat.
How much territory did the Roman Empire cover?
Look at that. Look at that.
That is, yeah. Okay, so
It's why it collapsed. It was too large. They couldn't do it.
and that's another thing, right? Is like, you know, look at how much goes on and how much seems uncontrollable today. We have
Fucking modern tech.
the level of communication.
Dude, think about shipping back then.
Right, but my point is like, you know, you can't maintain society without communication, as you can tell from here.
Well, do you know how many
I mean,
languages they spoke?
Yeah, so I'm saying it was not an organized society, opposed to, you know, right now. I mean, we have smartphones. I could literally talk into a smartphone and it'll translate into another language, and you know, America having the international bases in all those areas gives us the power for instant communication. We need these supplies. We're doing this. We're doing that.
Do you know this? That America can build a Burger King anywhere on the planet within 48 hours. We've done it. We've done it in like Iraq, like for a military base. We'll like build a military base and then build a fucking Burger King. 24 hours, bro. Or sorry, 48
I
hours.
wonder if they have
Burger
like a deal.
King.
If Burger King
48 hours, Burger King on your fucking front lawn, bitch. Like, that's America right there. Land of the free home of the Whopper, bitch.
Well, okay. Anyway, no, like what I wanted to tie that to was the fact that, you know, we're seeing now with the Russia-Ukraine war in particular, like what we're seeing is the direct result of, you know, because I don't know if you watched the Tucker Carlson interview.
Putin?
Yeah,
I
tried to, but I didn't find it that entertaining. But like one thing that stuck with me was his rationalization of the history going back hundreds of thousands of years, which
that's too far.
I know it's too far, but the point is everything is tied to the Soviet Union, or you know the Russian Empire prior to the Soviet Union. What were they called? It was when the Russian Revolution happened.
There was a White Army and the Red Army.
Yeah, but the White Army, were they called the White Army?
Yes.
In Russian, like, is that?
Oh, in Russian, I don't fucking know.
But like that's the thing, is I don't care about like what our name, like what our.
Oh, they called it the Red Army. They called, but I don't know how to say that in Russian. But its direct translation was the Red Army and then the White Army, because they're different. They literally wore different colored uniforms.
Right, and didn't they essentially like have their own, you know, royal family like England has?
Yeah, the fucking Romanovs. They had a lot of.
Didn't they feature like this a little bit in the Peaky Blinders?
Yes, the Romanovs were in the Peaky Blinders, but the thing about the Russian Revolution was that it started in the middle of World War I. It's like this is what happens when you send millions upon millions of young men to go die for a reason that they don't fucking understand, is eventually they're going to turn their gun around, you know, point it at you and say, why am I doing this, you know? It's part of the reason why I don't believe that America would ever be involved in a boots-on-the-ground World War III, because Americans, like, you know, we're very catered to.
Yeah.
If you asked us to send our sons to war, we wouldn't, you know? Why the fuck would we? We've got Uber Eats. We've got DoorDash. Why the fuck would I go to Iraq? You know what I'm saying? But, all right, go back. I want to read that beginning part. The Russian Revolution of 1917 was one of the most explosive political events of the 20th century. The violent revolution marked the end of the Romanov dynasty and centuries of Russian imperial rule. Economic hardship, food shortages, and government corruption all contributed to the disillusionment of Tsar Nicholas II. During the Russian Revolution, the Bolsheviks, led by leftist revolutionary Vladimir Lenin, seized power and destroyed the traditionalist Tsarist rule. The Bolsheviks would later become the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. Yes, I totally forgot about the term Bolsheviks. That's probably what you were asking.
That was the word. No, I'm just trying to.
Vikings, how I started and to plan my run.
Fuck you.
No, I'm not.
Fuck you.
Ads. Like the point. I don't know. I guess the point was like
Rasputin. Go ahead.
No, I'm not trying to go over all of it. I guess like my point was I'm trying to look at, Ukraine and the territory of Ukraine and the people of Ukraine
Going
being
back
tied.
1,000 years isn't going to do it. What you should be doing is going back to World War II, because listen, the Ukrainian people today are not the Ukrainian people of the past. But during World War II, a large portion of the Ukrainian people sided with the fucking Germans, okay, out of fear, right? And the same thing is a lot of them did it out of anti-Semitism. But that's why the Soviets had this. They always had a stick up their ass when it came to the Ukrainians, right? On top of that, have you ever heard of the Holodomor?
I do not know what that is.
Type in the Holodomor. People don't know this, bro. Stalin committed a genocide on the Ukrainians the same way that Hitler committed one on the Jews, right? Yeah, the Holodomor. It was a famine. It was an artificial famine, sort of like the potato famine on the Irish, right?
The Holodomor. What was the Holodomor? Hold on. I want to find...
Let me give you the rundown while you look for this, though, okay? Long story short, Stalin wanted to make sure that communism looked like it was working, right?
Right.
In mainland Russia, like Moscow and Leningrad, right? So, and it wasn't working. So he forced all the Ukrainians who were quote-unquote Soviet to ship all of their food, like at gunpoint, to ship their food up north and flood the cities with food so that the quote-unquote wealthy people would think communism was working. In the meantime, a billion Ukrainians were starved to death, right? And it started this resistance between the Ukrainians and the Russians. It started very bad blood,
Right.
And so a lot of Ukrainians are descendants of Nazis, but a lot of Ukrainians are descendants of rebels that were just trying to save their families from starvation.
Right.
But
anyway.
Yeah.
Like my point was every single thing is tied together, to hundreds of years of history. People talk about, oh, my grandparents lived through this, my grandparents lived through that, because it's one or two generations.
Oh, it's nothing, bro. There was a man. Oh my God. There was a man who was alive for Washington's presidency who has a living grandson today. Type in living grandson from Washington's presidency. Let's see if we can find him. Harrison Ruffin Tyler is a living grandson of the 10th... Oh, John... No, we're not looking for that. I don't know how we're going to find this.
Who was born during George?
I can find the guy's fucking name. Let me find the guy's name.
What am I Googling?
We're trying to figure out the guy who...
Well, and I don't need the guy's name. I don't really care about that. What's the point?
My point is that America is so fucking young in the world stage that people don't understand that, like, their grandparents were born in a different world, okay? When you think of our grandparents, right? They were born in the early 1900s, right?
Yeah.
Relatively...
And they were the first, essentially the first generation of their parents who came over.
But think about it. Our grandparents were from a relatively similar time as us. Relatively, right?
Mm-hmm.
But our grandparents and their grandparents were from two different universes. Our grandparent, like Nana Rose lived to be, 96 or some shit?
Mm-hmm.
So she got to see FaceTime, you know what I'm saying? She got to see fucking rovers on Mars, right? But her grandparents were born in, the 1850s, motherfucker. Horses pulling carriages, empires and emperors, kings and queens, right? This is why I always say that World War I was literally the end of the world. Because the world that we know now, fascism, communism, capitalism, TVs, all that shit, that is brand fucking new. Brand fucking new. According to historians, humanity's been around for 14,000 years. What the fuck, bro? It took us 14,000 years to invent a goddamn car, and then we invent the car, and it takes us 40 to get to the moon like we're fucking psychos, If I were an alien, I'd be horrified of us. I'd be horrified,
Yeah.
In the grand scheme of things, we move quick. I don't know how we got on this tangent. I'm sorry. But we were talking about weapons.
I think we could go on for hours about it.
Oh yeah.
I think
you want to call it quits?
No, it's not calling it quits. I think we can continue. We can continue as long as you want. But I think I want to get dinner started.
Yeah, we'll save this for the next episode.
Yeah,
guys.
I think let us know what you want a deeper dive in, because
guys, make sure to leave comments. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Ring that bell for notifications. But leave comments on what you guys want us to talk about, because we're down to talk about current events, but as long as it relates somewhat to a historical topic, because the whole point of this that we've been trying to hammer down is that everything about your life is a consequence of previous actions, right? And the actions that we as a society are going to take now are going to have consequences. And if you understand what happened back then, you can literally predict the fucking future, right? That's essentially the whole fucking point.
Yeah. So, on that note, we'll check out.
Oh yeah, we'll call it quits there. Thank you everybody for watching. No, but you don't understand! Hit the button.